The year was 2205. Earth had long since expanded beyond its atmosphere, exploring the far reaches of the galaxy. After decades of preparation and technological advancements, humanity's fleet of ships, led by the Aurora, a massive, state-of-the-art warship, was embarking on a mission like no other. Their goal was simple: to explore uncharted regions of space in search of new alien civilizations. But what they didn't know was that this journey would change everything they knew about the universe and themselves. As the fleet navigated through the dark void of space, the stars appeared like distant flickers of light, offering no hint of what lay ahead. It was the same endless blackness they had sailed through on countless other missions, yet today felt different. A sense of anticipation buzzed in the air, as though something extraordinary was about to happen. The Aurora was not alone. Accompanying it were 5 smaller ships, each equipped with the most advanced technology Earth had ever created. Together, they formed a group of explorers, bold, curious, and ready for anything. Captain Alina Voss stood on the command deck of the Aurora, gazing out into the vastness of space. Her sharp eyes scanned the data readouts flashing on the console in front of her. The fleet was moving smoothly through the nebula they had entered, known as the Orion Veil. The nebula was a vast cloud of dust and gas that stretched across several light years. It was a place that had long intrigued astronomers and scientists, but no one had dared to explore it fully until now. "Captain, we're picking up an anomaly," reported Lieutenant Callum Hayes, the ship's chief navigator. His voice was calm, but the slight edge of excitement could not be ignored. "It's on the far side of the nebula, just beyond the radio interference." Alina raised an eyebrow. "Anomaly? What kind of anomaly?" Callum's fingers flew over the controls, and a large holographic display popped up in front of her. A series of readings appeared, strange, complex signals that didn't match anything Earth's technology had encountered before. The signals were coming from a massive object hidden behind the nebula's dense gas clouds. Whatever it was enormous, much larger than anything humanity had ever encountered. Could it be a natural formation? Alina asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the growing curiosity bubbling inside her. Callum shook his head. "No, Captain. This doesn't resemble anything natural. It's artificial." Alina's heart skipped a beat. The thought of encountering an alien structure sent a thrill down her spine. She quickly made a decision. "Prepare the fleet. We're going in." The ships adjusted their course, cutting through the nebula toward the source of the anomaly. As they drew closer, the object became visible. An enormous structure, far too large to be any known satellite or space station. It looked like a city or a colossal fortress, its surface smooth and metallic, glinting in the faint light that filtered through the nebula. The excitement was palpable across the fleet. They were about to make history. But as they got closer, the object's sheer size became even more imposing. Alina could hardly believe her eyes. The structure stretched for miles, its edges disappearing into the haze of the nebula. It had clearly been built by an advanced civilization. But who were they? And why was it hidden here, in the middle of nowhere? "Captain, we're getting a transmission," Lieutenant Hayes said, his voice shaking with disbelief. Alina leaned forward, her breath catching in her throat. On screen, a holographic display flickered to life in front of her. A series of strange symbols and patterns flashed across the screen. It was an alien language, something completely foreign, yet somehow the symbols seemed to form a coherent message. The transmission was coming directly from the object. Alina's heart pounded as the holograms began to decode the message. The symbols shifted, rearranging themselves until they formed a clear message in English. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you." The room went silent. The weight of the message hung in the air. For the first time in history, Earth had made contact with an alien civilization. And not just any civilization, but one that had known of humanity for who knows how long. Alina's mind raced with questions. How did they know about Earth? And what did they want with them? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft peep from the communication panel. "Captain," said Lieutenant Callum, his voice tinged with caution, "they're requesting us to land. They're offering us a safe docking bay on the surface of the structure." The offer sounded almost too good to be true. Alina's instincts told her to be cautious, but her sense of curiosity won out. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The fleet had come so far, and now they stood on the edge of a new chapter in human history. "We'll take the offer," Alina decided, her voice firm. "Prepare to land." The fleet followed the instructions, carefully approaching the docking bay of the massive alien structure. As they descended through the haze of the nebula, the metallic surface of the object grew larger, revealing even more incredible details. Massive, intricate designs adorned the walls, pulsating with an eerie glow. It was like nothing they had ever seen. As the Aurora and its fleet of ships docked, the atmosphere aboard the ships shifted from excitement to tension. Every crew member knew they were stepping into the unknown. Captain Alina, accompanied by her most trusted officers, prepared to leave the ship and make their way into the alien structure. The sense of awe was overwhelming, but so was the fear. There were countless questions, and just as many risks. With a final glance at her crew, Alina stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The hatch of the Aurora opened with a hiss, and a ramp extended down to the surface of the alien structure. A chill ran down her spine as she stepped out onto the unfamiliar ground. It was unlike any surface she had ever touched before, smooth and metallic, yet somehow organic, as though the entire structure was alive. "We're in uncharted territory now," Alina said to her crew. "Stay alert, everyone." The group walked carefully toward a large, glowing doorway in the distance, which seemed to beckon them forward. As they approached, the door opened automatically with a low hum, revealing a grand hallway beyond. It was vast, filled with towering walls that seemed to stretch on forever. The architecture was unlike anything from Earth, sleek, elegant, and almost otherworldly in its design. The air inside was cool, but there was a faint hum of energy, as though the entire structure was powered by some kind of advanced technology. A voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the hallway. "Welcome, Captain Alina Voss and your crew. You have traveled far to find us, and we have been waiting for this moment. Come, the leaders wish to meet you." The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. There was no sign of any speaker, and yet the words filled the space around them. Alina's heart raced. She couldn't help but wonder who or what was speaking to them. Was it the aliens themselves, or was it someone else entirely? Without another word, the crew followed the voice's instructions, walking deeper into the heart of the alien structure. As they moved, the walls seemed to shift and change, revealing intricate patterns and symbols, some of which glowed faintly as they passed. It was like they were walking through the core of the universe itself, a place where time and space blurred into something far more profound. As they approached the center of the structure, Alina could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. This wasn't just a meeting with another species, it was a crossroads. This encounter could shape the future of humanity for centuries to come. What would the aliens want? And what would they learn from this first meeting? They reached a vast chamber, its floor shimmering with energy. In the center stood a tall figure, humanoid in shape, but its features were unlike anything Alina had seen before. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal, and its eyes glowed with an eerie blue light. The figure raised a hand, and a hologram flickered to life beside it. "Captain Alina Voss," the figure said, its voice both melodic and haunting. "You and your people have been chosen to witness the next great chapter of the galaxy. We have watched you for many years, and now the time has come to offer you our knowledge. Come and learn the truth of the cosmos." As Alina stood before this figure, every instinct told her that this moment, this first contact, would change everything. Little did she know, the galaxy's fate, and Earth's place in it, was about to be rewritten forever. The chamber was vast, its walls stretching upward into the shadows above. The floor beneath Alina's boots shimmered as if alive, pulsing with a strange, soft light. As they entered, the air felt different, charged with an energy that hummed faintly in the background, like the heartbeat of the structure itself. The crew stood in awe, looking around at the high-tech architecture, trying to make sense of everything they saw. Standing in the center of the room was the alien leader, a tall, humanoid figure. Its skin was like liquid metal, reflecting the soft glow of the chamber. Its eyes shone with a brilliant blue light that almost seemed to pierce through them. And its voice echoed in the minds of every crew member, smooth yet commanding. "Captain Alina Voss," the alien leader began, its voice both melodic and unnerving. "You and your people have arrived at a pivotal moment in your history. We have watched you grow, watched you struggle, and now we offer you knowledge, the knowledge of the galaxy, the universe, and the power that comes with it." Alina's heart raced. This was it, the moment that would define the future of humanity. She stepped forward, her mind filled with 1,000 questions. Who were these beings? How long had they been watching Earth? And what did they want with humanity? "I'm honored to meet you," Alina said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But I have so many questions. How do you know about Earth? Why have you contacted us now?" The alien leader tilted its head slightly, as if considering her words. "We have known about Earth for a long time. Your species, though young in the eyes of the galaxy, has shown great potential. You have a unique ability to adapt, to survive against the odds. It is that strength that drew us to you." Alina blinked, trying to absorb the alien leader's words. "But why now? Why contact us now, when we are still so far from your level of advancement?" A pause. Then the alien leader spoke again, its voice heavier this time. "Because the galaxy is changing. We, too, are facing a crisis. Our civilization, though advanced, is dying. Our technology cannot save us from the threat that is coming. But you, your species, might be the key to saving us all." Alina's mind was spinning. This was not what she had expected. The aliens, with their vast technology and knowledge, were asking for help from humanity. It didn't make sense, but the weight of their words lingered in the air, and she couldn't ignore the truth that was being spoken. Whatever was coming, it was a danger that could affect the entire galaxy. "So, you're asking for our help?" Alina asked, her voice hesitant. "But why? We're still learning about the universe. We don't have your technology or your power." The alien leader's eyes flickered, a glimmer of something like sadness passing over its metallic features. "No, you don't. But you have something far more valuable. You have courage. You have the will to fight. And that is what will make the difference." Before Alina could respond, a soft hum filled the room, and the floor beneath them shifted. The lights in the chamber flickered, and a holographic display appeared before them. The image was of a distant planet, dark, clouded, and chaotic. A storm raged over the surface, lightning crackling in the sky. But it wasn't a natural storm. The destruction was not from nature. It was being caused by something much more terrifying. "This," the alien leader continued, "is the homeworld of the Krenar. They are a race of machines, once our allies, but now they have turned against us. They are coming for our world, and we cannot stop them. Our fleets are no match for their power." Alina looked at the image, her heart sinking. The Krenar, a race of sentient machines, and they were coming for the aliens' homeworld. This was worse than she had imagined. The Krenar, as far as she knew, were not just machines. They were known for their ruthlessness, their lack of empathy, and their unrelenting drive for conquest. "Why can't you fight them?" Alina asked, her mind racing. The alien leader's expression softened. "We tried, Captain, but their technology is far beyond ours. Their warships are designed to destroy everything in their path. Our ships, our weapons, everything we have is useless against them. That is why we need your help. We believe that with your species' resourcefulness, we can create a new weapon, a weapon that will stand a chance against the Krenar." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. A new weapon. The weight of the responsibility was overwhelming. They were asking humanity to face the Krenar, to battle a race of machines that had already defeated the aliens' greatest efforts. Could they really do this? Were humans ready for such a monumental task? "We're not warriors," Elena said quietly, her voice filled with doubt. "We're just learning how to survive in space. We have no experience fighting beings like the Krenar." The alien leader's gaze softened. "That is exactly why we came to you. You are not bound by the old ways, not like we are. You have something that we have lost: creativity, innovation, and the will to break free from tradition. It is those qualities that can give us the edge we need." There was a long pause as Elena absorbed the enormity of the situation. She looked at the faces of her crew, each one a mixture of awe, confusion, and fear. They had come to explore the unknown, but now they were being asked to save an entire civilization from an enemy unlike any they had ever faced. "I'll admit, this is a lot to process," Elena said finally, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "But I can't ignore what you're saying. If there's even a chance we can help, we have to try. For Earth, for you, for the galaxy." The alien leader nodded, its expression unreadable. "We knew you would understand, Captain. We will show you our technology, our archives, and our warships. Together, we will fight the Krenar, or die trying. There is no other way." As Elena nodded in agreement, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. The alien leader's words were sincere, but there was an intensity in its eyes that unsettled her. What were they not telling her? Why had they chosen humanity? What was really at stake here? Before she could voice her concerns, the holographic display changed. The image of the Krenar homeworld shifted to reveal something else, something far worse. A massive fleet of Krenar warships was emerging from a nearby star system, their weapons powered up and ready for battle. The aliens had been right. The Krenar were coming, and they weren't wasting any time. "Time is short, Captain," the alien leader said urgently. "We need to act now. You must return to your ships and prepare for war. The Krenar will be here within days." Elena felt a lump form in her throat. The weight of the decision was crushing. They weren't just exploring anymore. They were fighting for the future of all life in the galaxy. She turned to her crew. "Prepare yourselves. We don't have much time. Let's make history." As they turned to leave the chamber, Elena couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this mission would change everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The future was uncertain, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. But one thing was clear. They were no longer just explorers. They were soldiers thrust into a galactic war that would determine the fate of countless civilizations. With a deep breath, Elena and her crew followed the alien leader out of the chamber and into the unknown. The hum of the engines echoed throughout the ship as Elena sat in her command chair, staring out into the vastness of space. The crew was silent, the tension in the air thick and heavy. They had made their decision. Humanity was going to join the fight against the Krenar. But as they prepared to depart the alien station, something didn't feel right. Elena couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than they had ever anticipated. The alien civilization that had reached out to them had shown them incredible technology, hyper-advanced weapons, ships that could cloak and travel faster than light, and an archive of knowledge that could change everything humanity knew about the universe. But there was something about the alien leader's words that kept gnawing at her mind. They hadn't told them everything. She leaned forward in her chair, tapping a few commands into the console in front of her. The crew members, working quietly at their stations, gave her space. She could see the worry in their eyes, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The Krenar were coming, and the situation was growing more desperate by the minute. But what if they were being manipulated? The thought was unsettling, but Elena couldn't ignore it. She knew the stakes. If they failed to stop the Krenar, everything would be lost. But if they were being used as pawns in a larger game, what would happen to humanity? What was the alien civilization not telling them? As Elena pondered these questions, her communications officer, Lieutenant Michelson, interrupted her thoughts. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the alien leader. They want to meet with you immediately," he said, his voice laced with a mixture of confusion and concern. Elena glanced up, frowning. This wasn't what she had expected. She had thought the meeting was over, and they would be moving forward with their preparations for war. Why would the alien leader contact them again? "Patch it through to my console," Elena ordered, her mind racing. The transmission flickered to life, and once again, the alien leader's figure appeared on the screen. "Elena," the alien leader began, its metallic voice smooth and calm. "There is something I need to tell you, something you must know before we proceed." Elena's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she focused on the screen. "What is it? What do you need to tell me?" The alien leader paused for a moment, as if weighing its next words carefully. "The Krenar are not our only enemy. There is something much darker lurking in the shadows of the galaxy, something far more dangerous than even the Krenar themselves. We, my people, have known of its existence for centuries, but we have kept it hidden." Elena's pulse quickened. This was not what she had expected. "What are you talking about? What kind of threat could be worse than the Krenar?" The alien leader's glowing blue eyes dimmed slightly. "We call it the Void. It is an ancient force, older than any civilization in this galaxy. It is a being of pure energy, a force that devours everything in its path. The Krenar are only a small part of a much larger conflict. The Void is coming, and it will consume everything. It will leave nothing but darkness." Elena stared at the screen in disbelief. The Void, an ancient, unstoppable force. This was something completely new. It wasn't just a war between civilizations. They were facing an existential threat that could wipe out everything. Her mind raced as she tried to process what the alien leader was saying. If the Void was real, it could be far worse than anything the Krenar had done. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Elena demanded. "Why wait until now to reveal this? You've known about the Void for centuries, and yet you only mentioned it now." The alien leader's eyes flickered with something resembling regret. "Because we thought we could handle it. We thought we could fight it ourselves, without involving other species. But the Void is beyond our understanding. We cannot fight it alone. We need your help, Captain. Your people's resourcefulness and determination might be our only hope." Elena stood up from her chair, pacing the bridge. She tried to make sense of the situation. First, they had been told the Krenar were the greatest threat to the galaxy. Now they were learning about an even greater danger, something that could destroy everything. She could feel the weight of the decision bearing down on her. "We're already fighting the Krenar," Elena said, her voice tight. "How are we supposed to fight this Void as well?" The alien leader's voice was calm but heavy with urgency. "We do not expect you to fight the Void directly. The Void cannot be defeated by conventional means, but there is something that might help you understand how to stop it. The Krenar are, in a way, connected to the Void. They have been corrupted, twisted by its influence. They serve as its agents, carrying out its will." Elena's eyes widened in realization. The Krenar were more than just a warlike species. They were being used, manipulated by the Void itself. "So if we stop the Krenar, we can weaken the Void's influence." The alien leader nodded. "That is our hope. By cutting off the Krenar's connection to the Void, we might be able to slow its spread. But it will not be enough. The Void is still coming, and we do not have much time." Elena felt her stomach twist. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. This wasn't just about defending their world or protecting their civilization. It was about preventing the destruction of everything, everywhere. "So what do we need to do?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the storm raging in her mind. The alien leader's holographic figure flickered slightly, And then it spoke. You must find the source of the void's power. It lies hidden in a distant part of the galaxy, in a system that no one has dared to enter. The information we have gathered suggests that the void's core lies there, in a place where the very fabric of reality is warped. It is a place of unimaginable danger, but it may hold the key to stopping it. Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. A place where reality itself was twisted. This was starting to sound like a nightmare. And yet, they had no choice but to move forward. I'll gather the crew, Elena said, turning away from the screen. We'll prepare for this new mission. But I need to know one thing before we go any further. How do we know we can trust you? The alien leader's eyes flashed with a sudden intensity. You must trust us, Captain. Time is running out, and if we do not act quickly, the void will consume everything. I will not lie to you. We have our own motives, but your survival is in our best interest as well. If the void succeeds, it will destroy everything, including us. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The path had just become far more dangerous. She could no longer be sure of anything. But one thing was clear. Humanity was now at the center of a galactic struggle, one that would decide the fate of the universe. She had no choice but to trust the alien leader and move forward. We're in this together, Elena said firmly. Let's stop the void. And let's stop the Krenar. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew. The silence in the room was deafening, each crew member lost in their thoughts. They had no idea what lay ahead, but they knew one thing for certain. Their mission had just taken an unexpected turn. And there was no turning back now. The sound of the ship's engines humming filled the bridge as Elena stood in front of the massive view screen. Outside, the stars stretched in every direction, glowing like countless diamonds against the black velvet of space. But her mind wasn't on the beauty of the universe. It was on the mission ahead, one that now seemed more impossible than ever before. Their encounter with the alien civilization had turned everything they knew upside down. What started as a simple mission to explore and learn from a new species had transformed into a fight for survival, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. And now, the mysterious void, an ancient force more dangerous than the Krenar, was on the move, and they had no choice but to face it head-on. But Elena knew that this was not just a war of technology or strategy. It was a test of humanity itself. How far they were willing to go, how much they were willing to sacrifice, and whether they had the strength to face the darkest corners of the universe. Humanity was no longer just a species on Earth. They were about to become a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. We're approaching the coordinates, Lieutenant Michelson said, his voice cutting through Elena's thoughts. She turned to look at him, her expression resolute. Set the ship on alert. We don't know what's waiting for us out there. Stay sharp. The crew quickly got to work, their actions smooth and practiced. They had all been through countless missions, but this one was unlike any other. The stakes had never been higher, and the unknown was far greater than they could have imagined. Captain, Lieutenant Vance, the ship's engineer, called out from his station. We've detected some unusual energy readings. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Elena's brow furrowed. What kind of energy? It's hard to say, Vance replied, scanning his console. But it's definitely coming from the system we're approaching. Whatever's out there, it's powerful. Understood, Elena said, her voice steady but full of determination. Let's proceed cautiously. All crew, prepare for potential contact. As the ship continued its journey into the unknown system, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into something far bigger than they realized. The alien leader had spoken of the void with fear, as if it were an unstoppable force. And now they were heading straight toward it. She knew that the Krenar weren't the only threat they faced, but the unknown nature of the void made it far more terrifying. What would it be like to face a force that had existed for eons, one that could twist reality itself? Elena didn't know, but she was determined to find out. Humanity had faced challenges before, but this was different. They were no longer just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for the survival of the entire galaxy. As the ship entered the system, the view screen changed. The stars in the distance began to fade, replaced by a strange, swirling darkness. It was as if the very fabric of space itself was being warped. Elena's breath caught in her throat. "This is it," she whispered to herself. The crew fell silent as they stared at the view screen, watching in awe and fear as the darkness before them twisted and writhed. It wasn't just a shadow. It was something alive, something that seemed to pulse and shift as if it were a living entity. "Captain, we've entered the area of high-energy distortion," Michelson reported, his voice tense. "This is beyond anything we've ever encountered." "We're not backing down," Elena said firmly. "All stations, prepare for whatever comes next. If we're going to face this thing, we do it together." The ship drifted closer to the epicenter of the energy disturbance, and as they drew nearer, a massive structure slowly came into view. It was a colossal black monolith, floating in the heart of the darkness. The structure was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, an ancient, massive edifice that seemed to hum with power. It was alive with energy, and it seemed to be watching them, as though it were aware of their presence. "Is that the source?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It must be," Vance replied. "The energy signature matches the readings we've been tracking. This is it, the heart of the void." Elena stood tall, trying to steady her racing heart. This was the moment that could change everything. Humanity's destiny was tied to whatever lay inside that monolith. They had come this far, and there was no turning back now. "Open a comm channel," Elena ordered. Michelson quickly worked at his station, and a moment later, the screen flickered to life. Once again, the alien leader's holographic form appeared, though this time, its expression was grave, even more so than before. "Captain," the alien leader said, its voice somber, "you have arrived at the heart of the void. This is where everything will be decided." Elena stepped closer to the screen. "What exactly are we dealing with here? What is the void, and how do we stop it?" The alien leader's eyes glowed softly as it spoke. "The void is not just an entity. It is a force that has existed long before any civilization in this galaxy. It is the eater of worlds, the bringer of entropy. It devours everything, life, energy, and even the very laws of physics. It exists outside of time, outside of space, and it is waking up." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The alien leader's words were heavy with an ancient terror, one that stretched across the galaxy's entire history. "How do we stop it?" Elena pressed. "We can't let this thing consume everything." The alien leader hesitated for a moment, as though choosing its words carefully. "There is a way, but it is not a simple task. The void's power is held in check by a network of ancient constructs, devices created by the civilizations that once lived in this galaxy. These constructs maintain a fragile balance. If they are destroyed, the void will be free to consume everything." "So we destroy these constructs?" Elena asked. The alien leader nodded. "Yes, but it is not that easy. The constructs are guarded by powerful forces, forces that will do anything to protect them. You will need to fight your way through them, and time is running out. The void grows stronger with every passing moment. If you fail, the galaxy will fall." Elena turned to her crew, her heart pounding in her chest. They had no choice but to move forward. They were humanity's last hope, the galaxy's last hope. They had already fought the Krynar, and now they would fight this unknown force, this void. "We can do this," Elena said, her voice steady. "We've faced impossible odds before, and we will face them again. We fight, not just for ourselves, but for the entire galaxy." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They were ready to fight for the future of all life, no matter what it took. As the ship moved toward the monolith, the lights aboard flickered, and the crew braced themselves for whatever was to come. They didn't know what the void truly was or what they would face, but one thing was certain: they would not give up. Humanity had awakened to its place in the universe, and now they would stand together against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The final battle was about to begin, and humanity was ready to face it head-on. The air aboard the ship was thick with tension. The crew had gathered in the command center, their faces grim as they prepared for the next phase of their mission. There was no turning back now. Alina stood at the front of the room, her hands clasped behind her back, as she studied the holographic map before her. It detailed the route to the ancient constructs, the only hope they had to stop the void from consuming everything. The alien leader's warning still echoed in her mind. If you fail, the galaxy will fall. Alina wasn't going to let that happen. She couldn't afford to. Too much was at stake, too many lives, too many worlds hanging in the balance. Humanity's struggle had only just begun, and now they had to fight not just to survive, but to avenge everything the void had taken. Captain, Lieutenant Michelson's voice pulled Elena from her thoughts. We've finished preparations. The fleet is ready. Elena turned, her eyes meeting his. Good. Let's make sure we're not just ready for battle. We're ready for victory. The crew stood at attention as Elena gave a final glance over their faces. They were all young, but their determination was clear. This was their moment. It was now or never. The future of the galaxy depended on them. We know what's at stake, she said, her voice steady. The void has already consumed countless worlds. It doesn't stop. If we let it win, everything will be wiped out. But we will not let that happen. We fight for the future, we fight for all of life, and we fight for the countless innocent people who have no voice in this war. Now, let's show them what humanity is capable of. The room erupted in a chorus of determined nods, and the crew made their way to their stations. Elena's heart raced as she watched them. This was it, the moment when everything would change. This battle would determine whether humanity would rise to become a force in the galaxy, or whether they would fall, crushed under the weight of forces far greater than themselves. The ship's engines hummed with power as they pulled away from the monolith. The path ahead was fraught with danger, powerful alien forces, ancient defenses, and the unknown force of the void itself. They had no idea what they were walking into, but one thing was clear: they couldn't afford to fail. Approaching the first construct, Michelson announced, "We're entering the enemy's territory. Prepare for contact." Elena's grip tightened on the arm of her chair. This was the moment. There was no more hesitation. They had come so far. She had seen the strength of humanity, the bravery, the resolve to fight against all odds. It was now time to unleash that strength, to turn the tide of the war. "Steady," Elena ordered. "Keep your focus. We have no room for mistakes." As the ship neared the first construct, the tension in the air was palpable. The crew's eyes were fixed on the view screen, watching as massive, shadowy figures emerged from the dark void surrounding them. They were enormous, huge, metallic creatures with glowing red eyes. They were the void's guardians, protectors of the ancient constructs, and they weren't going to make this easy. "Enemy contact," Michelson shouted. "They're opening fire." Before Elena could give any command, the ship rocked violently. Energy blasts slammed into the hull, rattling the crew and sending sparks flying from the console. The ship groaned under the assault. "Shields at 40%. Vance yelled. "We need to get those guardians off us." Elena's heart raced. This was it. This was the battle they had been preparing for. They had to fight, and they had to win. There was no other choice. "Fire the plasma cannons," she ordered. The ship's weapon systems roared to life as massive bolts of plasma energy shot out, hitting the guardians dead on. The massive creatures staggered but didn't fall. They were strong, their armor nearly impervious to human firepower. But Elena knew they couldn't stop there. They needed to hit them with everything they had. "Launch torpedoes," she commanded. "Target their energy cores." The crew worked quickly, their fingers flying across their stations as they unleashed a barrage of high-powered torpedoes. The weapons streaked toward the Guardians, exploding with bright flashes of light. For a moment, it seemed like the battle might be turning in their favor. But then, a loud screech echoed across the comms. One of the Guardians retaliated, swinging its massive arm at the ship. It hit the side with a devastating blow, sending the vessel spiraling out of control. "Brace for impact," Elena shouted, her voice filled with urgency. The ship lurched violently as it was struck again, and Elena was thrown forward, slamming into the console. The world spun around her, but she fought to stay conscious. The crew had to hold on. They couldn't let the void win. Not now. Not after everything they had fought for. "Michelson," she gasped, struggling to regain her footing. "Status report. We've lost main power to the shields, Captain." Michelson's voice crackled with urgency. "We're exposed." Elena's heart skipped a beat as she realized the gravity of the situation. The Guardians were too powerful. If they didn't get the shields back up soon, they'd be sitting ducks in space. "Vance, I need you to restore power to the shields," Elena ordered, her voice unwavering. "I'm on it," Vance replied, his fingers moving frantically across his console. "It's going to take a minute. Make it faster." Elena snapped. The ship shook again as another energy blast slammed into the hull. The crew's faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. But Elena refused to show fear. This was their moment. They couldn't let it slip away. "Captain," Michelson shouted, "another fleet is emerging from the darkness. We're surrounded." Elena's eyes widened. They were outnumbered, trapped between the Guardians and the Void's reinforcements. This wasn't just a fight, it was a battle for survival. But in the face of overwhelming odds, something changed. The crew's fear turned to fury. They had nothing left to lose. If they were going to die, they were going to make sure they took down as many of these creatures as possible before the end. "Prepare for one last push," Elena shouted, her voice full of fire. "We're not backing down. We are humanity, and we will fight until the very end. We unleash our vengeance upon them." The crew roared in agreement, the sound of their defiance filling the command center. The ship surged forward, weapons blazing as they charged into the heart of the enemy fleet. The battle became a blur of flashing lights, roaring weapons, and the deep hum of the ship's engines pushing them forward. Elena fought with everything she had. Every ounce of strength, every bit of courage. They fought not just for survival, but for justice, for everything they had lost, and for the future of all life in the galaxy. And then, with a final, deafening explosion, the Guardians fell. The ship's weapons had pierced their defenses, and the energy cores exploded in a burst of light. For a moment, it felt like time stood still. The battlefield was quiet. But it wasn't over. The final construct loomed ahead, its ancient power radiating from within. The Void's hold on the galaxy was far from broken. But this victory, this first step, was humanity's message to the universe. "We've done it," Elena said, her voice soft but full of pride. But this is just the beginning. The calm after the storm was almost surreal. The battle was over, and the stars outside the ship glowed peacefully, almost as if nothing had ever happened. But Elena knew better. She knew that the quiet was just the beginning of something bigger, something that could change the entire galaxy. Humanity had taken its first step into a new era, and there was no going back now. The crew had gathered in the main conference room, their faces still filled with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. They had fought hard, and their victory had come at a high cost. Several crew members were injured, and the ship had sustained significant damage. But they had won. They had taken down the Guardians and cleared the path to the last of the ancient constructs. Elena stood at the head of the room, her gaze sweeping over the tired yet determined faces of her crew. This was their moment. They had fought for survival, for their people, and for a future that was now within their grasp. It wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point in the war. "We've done it," Alina said, her voice steady. "The first part of our mission is complete. But we can't rest yet. The void is still out there, and we still have a long way to go. But this victory, this moment, is a sign. It shows us that we can win." A round of nods and murmurs of agreement filled the room. The crew had seen firsthand what the void was capable of. They had felt its devastating power, and they knew just how much it would take to stop it. But they also knew that they had something the void didn't have: humanity's spirit. The ship's sensors were still active, scanning the surrounding space for any signs of movement. The ancient construct was just ahead, a massive glowing structure floating in the void. Alina could feel the weight of it pressing down on her. They had come so far, but the final challenge was still ahead of them. "Captain, we've received a transmission from Earth," Michelson said, his voice breaking through Alina's thoughts. "It's urgent." Alina turned to him, her brow furrowing in concern. "Put it through." The holographic screen flickered, and the face of General Larkin appeared, his expression grave. "Captain, we've been monitoring your progress," General Larkin began. "I'm proud of everything you and your crew have accomplished. But the situation is changing. The void is no longer just a threat in one part of the galaxy. It's spreading, and it's gaining strength faster than we anticipated. We need you to push forward and end this war before it spreads any further." Alina's heart raced as she processed the information. The void was growing stronger, and time was running out. They had to act fast. "I understand, General," she replied, her voice firm. "We're heading to the last construct now. We'll make sure it's destroyed, and we'll push forward to take the fight to the void itself." General Larkin nodded. "Be careful, Captain. You're our last hope." The transmission ended, and the crew turned to Alina, their faces filled with determination. They had known the risks from the beginning. They had known that this mission would be dangerous, but they had also known that they were humanity's best chance. "We'll finish this," Alina said, her voice filled with conviction. "We've come this far, and we're not stopping now." The ship's engines hummed to life, and the crew moved into action. As they approached the final construct, the tension in the air was palpable. They had already faced incredible odds, and now they were going to face the void itself. The final construct was enormous, a massive structure that seemed to stretch on forever. Its surface was covered in strange, glowing symbols that pulsed with an eerie light. Alina felt a shiver run down her spine as she stared at it. This was the heart of the void's power, the source of its strength. Destroying it was the key to ending this war. The ship approached the construct carefully, its shields raised to protect it from any unexpected attacks. The crew knew that they were walking into the unknown, but they were ready. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for every possible outcome, and they weren't going to back down now. "We're entering the construct's gravity well," Michelson reported. "Prepare for a rough landing." The ship shook as they were pulled into the construct's gravity field. The controls flickered, and the crew braced themselves for impact. But Alina kept her focus, her eyes locked on the glowing structure ahead. This was it, the final battle. "We're almost there," Alina said. "Stay sharp, everyone." The ship descended toward the surface of the construct, its hull scraping against the metal surface. A loud groan echoed through the ship as they touched down. The crew quickly moved into action, their adrenaline pumping as they prepared for the next phase of the mission. "Get to your stations," Alina ordered. "We don't know what we're going to find inside, but we'll be ready." The doors of the ship opened with a hiss, and the crew stepped out, their boots crunching against the metal floor of the construct. The air was thick and cold, and the walls were lined with strange alien technology. It was clear that this place had been abandoned for centuries, but the energy still pulsed within it, radiating an ominous power. As the crew moved forward, their weapons raised, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The silence was deafening, and every footstep echoed in the vast chamber. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The void's presence was everywhere, lingering in the shadows, waiting for them to make a mistake. Then, out of nowhere, a loud, mechanical noise echoed through the chamber. The crew froze, their weapons aimed at the source of the sound. Suddenly, a massive, armored figure emerged from the shadows, its glowing red eyes locking onto them. It was one of the Void soldiers, an enormous, deadly creature designed for combat. "Take cover," Elena shouted, pushing the crew into action. The battle was fierce. The creature was fast and powerful, its movements almost impossible to track. The crew fired everything they had, but the Void soldiers shrugged off their attacks with terrifying ease. Elena knew they couldn't defeat it the same way they had fought the Guardians. They had to find a different strategy, something that would give them the upper hand. "Michelson, do you have a way to disable its armor?" Elena shouted. Michelson quickly scanned the creature's movements, his eyes narrowing as he found a weak spot in its armor. "I think I can overload its power core, but I'll need a few seconds to get into position." "Do it," Elena yelled. The crew took cover, their weapons firing non-stop as they kept the Void soldier distracted. Michelson moved quickly, darting from cover to cover, his eyes locked on the creature's power core. With a final, desperate lunge, he managed to plant a device near the core and set the timer. "Move," he shouted, diving for cover. The device went off with a massive explosion, and the Void soldier crumpled to the ground, its armor falling apart in a shower of sparks. The crew rushed forward, their hearts pounding, knowing that the path to the heart of the construct was now clear. "We have to move," Elena said, her voice steady. "We can't waste any more time." The crew pushed forward, deeper into the heart of the construct. The closer they got, the more the presence of the Void seemed to intensify. It was everywhere, coursing through the walls, the air, even the very ground beneath their feet. Elena could feel it, a dark, oppressive force that threatened to consume everything in its path. And then they reached it. The core of the construct, the source of the Void's power. It was massive, glowing with an unearthly energy. Elena could feel its power radiating out, almost like it was alive. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with awe. "We destroy this, and we stop the Void." The crew set their charges, each one carefully placed around the core. Elena knew that this was their final chance, their last hope. If they succeeded, they would end the Void's reign of terror. If they failed, it would mean the end of everything. "5 minutes, Vance said, his voice calm but tense. "We're ready." Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the core. "Let's do it." As the countdown began, the crew stood together, ready for the final act. They had fought for this moment, for the future of their people, for the galaxy, and for all those who had fallen before them. And as the timer ticked down, Elena knew that this was a new beginning, a new era for humanity. One way or another, they would rise, and they would change the galaxy forever.